Yo, what is going on, and welcome to the channel. Today we will get started with our first video here on the Sports Talk Guy channel. We're going to take a look at the upcoming NFL season. Depending on when you're watching this, the season could have already started, or it could be just a couple days away. So we're going to go through basically just all my predictions, but it's also going to be a lot of highlights and kind of talking about, I took for every team, I went through every single team in each division, and I took 3 different highlights from preseason, and then I'm going to end up talking about, what teams I think are going to make a jump this year, maybe teams that will fall off, and then I'm going to go through all my playoff predictions. Basically, I'm just going to give out my entire season predictions in this video. So yeah, I'm super excited to get started. Let's go ahead and let's jump right into the NFC North. So our first team we'll be taking a look at here is the Green Bay Packers. So looking at the Packers, I mean, you lose Aaron Rodgers, that right there. He did not have a great season last year, but at the same time, I just think that losing a quarterback like that and then moving on to a guy who's, not as experienced like Jordan Love is, I think that it's going to be a little bit of a rougher season for the Packers. However, I do have a lot of faith in Jordan Love. I just do not think that this year is going to be his year. I think you're going to have to give him at least 2, maybe 3 years. You look at guys like Jalen Hurts who came in. It took him a couple years to kind of get things moving. I think it's going to be kind of the same for Jordan Love. So, but looking at that roster, they honestly have a really good roster. They got a good run game, a good defense. I like their wide receiving core is looking, really. The future's looking bright is basically what I'm getting at. So I do think the Packers have a very bright future. I just think that they're maybe a year or two out from being back in the playoff race. So with that all being said, I do have the Packers going 6-11. Now we have the Chicago Bears. And now this is a team, I think, if you want to look at this team and the New York Jets as the two biggest question mark teams, no one knows how these two teams are going to do, or how those two teams are going to do. But we're looking at the Bears specifically right now. You add DJ Moore. There he goes right there. Defensively, you get way better. I think they're still missing a lot of pieces on offense, and that's going to cause them to struggle. But I think Fields is good enough to, get the job done for the most part. So honestly, it's really hard to say what this team's going to do. I've got a lot of faith in them this year. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. I think they miss it maybe by a game or two. They are in one of the easiest divisions, so I definitely could see them making the playoffs. But I got the Bears going 8-9. Now we have the Minnesota Vikings coming off that insane 13-4 season. I don't think a lot of people were expecting that. Sorry for this video, by the way, this clip. I know it's all janky, but yeah, I mean, a 13-4 season. What an incredible year for Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Offensive Player of the Year. This offense is really good. If this offense can stay healthy, I do think the Vikings will be back in the playoffs. However, I do think they're going to regress a lot this year because their defense is horrible. I mean, they have no one on defense. They did hire Brian Flores, so that's going to, help lead to some good things, but I still think this team is going to struggle a lot when it comes to winning big games, instead of last year where they went 11-0 in one possession games. So with that being said, I got the Vikings going 9-8 this year. But I do think that they could improve even more. Now we got the Detroit Lions. Now this is the team this year. This is the team. I think this is the year the Lions win the division for I think this is the first year they'll ever win the North, but it'll be the second time they ever win their division. They had an amazing draft class, easily a top 2 to 3 draft class. I think when it's all said and done 5 years from now, we'll be looking at this as probably the best draft class. I know a lot of people were skeptical of it. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell in the first round. Guarantee you those are going to be 2 guys that are going to be all-pro players. And yeah, they've had a really bright future. Jared Goff had his best season last year since that year they went to the Super Bowl. Their defense, that is where the biggest improvements came, and that's where I think they are going to see the biggest improvements. So I got the Lions winning the division this year, coming in at 11-6. And now we move into the NFC East. So we're going to start with the Washington Commanders, who this team had a good year last year. They were just a couple games out of the playoffs. They were actually in the playoff picture up until the last few weeks. Dan Snyder kind of didn't even realize that, but either way, I mean, you want to look at this Commanders team. I really like the direction this team's headed. Sam Howell, I'm not going to lie, I really wanted my favorite team to draft him as a backup quarterback because, man, he's got a lot of potential. I like his game. Defensively, they got some guys that, Chase Young, if he stays healthy, man, they got a good defense. Offensively, they're starting to put it together, man, and, they might just be a quarterback away, but at the same time, there's no saying what Sam Howell's going to do. So we'll see what he does, but I got the Commanders going 7-10 this year. The New York Giants. How about that season last year? Really weird year for them. They ended up making the playoffs, and they ended up winning against the Vikings, which I kind of predicted. I think a lot of people knew the Vikings were a little overrated. Not that they weren't good, but they ended up winning in Minnesota, and Daniel Jones got his first playoff victory. Good for him. I still am not completely sold on Daniel Jones. I still think there's a lot of room that Giants are going to have to improve defensively, and the wide receiver room is not great, but I do have the Giants going 9-8 this year. The Dallas Cowboys. Is it their year? I don't know. I don't think so, but this team, they're good. And if Dak Prescott, man, if he can just survive throwing less than 10 receptions, I do think this team probably could go to the Super Bowl. I do think that they're probably easily a top 4 team in the NFC this year. Deuce Vaughn, I love that guy. I'm glad they got him. I'm excited to watch him this year. Obviously, one of the best defenses in the NFL. Offensively, they struggle here and there, but I do like this team. I do have them going 11-6. And the defending NFC champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, who you're going to see more of them later. But yeah, this team, man, probably my favorite complete roster in the entire NFL. Their defense is amazing. I think they're probably going to have the best defense in the NFL this year. I mean, obviously, you got the 49ers, Cleveland Browns, Dolphins. There's a ton of teams that have good defense. But I think the Eagles are going to have a great year this year. I'm excited to see if they can make it back to the Super Bowl. I'll let you guys know what I think about that coming up later. I do have the Eagles winning the division at 12-5. The NFC South, maybe the most open division in the NFL. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we're going to start with them. Probably the team that most people are kind of like, yeah, they're probably not going to do much. But you got to look at this team at who they have. You still have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I know there's been trade rumors on Mike Evans. They still have a really good defense. I mean, this team is not that far off. They might be a quarterback and maybe one or two other players off from being back in the playoffs. I mean, this team is really not that far off. They just went there, with Tom Brady just a couple years ago. So, Baker Mayfield, if he has his best year ever, I could see this team winning the division at like 9-8. However, I think they're going to have a really bad year. I think they're going to tank this year. I got them going 3-14. The Atlanta Falcons, I know a lot of people have them winning the division or are really high on them. I really don't buy into the hype. They do not have a quarterback that I think is starting worthy. I honestly think they have a bottom 3 quarterback room in the NFL. You added Bijan Robinson, which I did not agree with that pick at pick 8, but it ended up probably being their best overall pick. They got the guy they needed, right? That's all that matters. So I do like that. And they got some guys offensively I think that can get the job done, but I don't think they're there yet. I got them going 7-10. Here's another team that we have really no idea what they're going to look like. The Carolina Panthers. You got a rookie, Bryce Young, who number 1 overall pick. You expect high things from him, but being a rookie, do you really think he's going to lead them to the playoffs? I think that there's a good chance they do. I think that they're either going to be a spot out from the playoffs or they're going to finish that last wild card spot or even win the division. I think that they got a really bright future ahead of them as well. I got them going 9-8 this year and finishing second in the division. And that leaves us with the New Orleans Saints, who I actually think is going to have a really good year this year. I think that Derek Carr is going to help improve this team drastically from what they were. They really weren't horrible last year with a bad quarterback room. So, yeah, I think that they're going to have a pretty good year. Really good defense, probably top 5 to 7 defense in the NFL. Guys like Cameron Jordan, Tyrann Mathieu. Offensively, they got some guys, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas. If he stays healthy, I got the Saints winning the division at 10-7. And the NFC West, who it's a pretty interesting division, but starting with the Arizona Cardinals, who I think we can all agree are not going to be very good this year. You lose DeAndre Hopkins. Kyler Murray's not even going to be able to play most of the year. It's not looking good for them. I really liked this team. 2 or 3 years ago, I had this team, going into the Super Bowl. I really liked Kyler Murray. I thought he was good. I just think that now they're missing a lot of pieces. And defensively, they could get a lot better as well. I think this is the year they probably tank for a new quarterback. I probably are going to go for Caleb Williams, so I got them going 3-14. Los Angeles Rams, well, really rough year last year, but that came with the fact that half their team was injured. Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, as well as Matthew Stafford. I mean, what are you going to do? I think this team's going to definitely improve this year. This was a Super Bowl team just a season ago, so I do think they're probably going to be back in competing for the playoffs if they stay healthy. That is, these are all predictions of, with teams staying healthy. So obviously not all probably come true, but I think they will if they stay healthy. So I got the Rams going 9-8. I do think Stafford's going to bounce back this year, coming off that injury. I think there's a lot of missing pieces on this team as well. I know there was some stuff about Stafford, not connecting with the young guys, but I do think they're going to have a good year. And the Seattle Seahawks, who stole a playoff spot from my favorite team last year. You probably can guess who they are, the Detroit Lions. But the Seattle Seahawks, who had a really surprising year last year. I was expecting them to be a 5-12, 4-13 team. They were probably one of the biggest teams that caught me by surprise. Kenneth Walker III, that's my guy. I'm a Michigan State fan, so I love him. Geno Smith coming off a Pro Bowl year was an insane comeback year for him. So super excited to see what they do this year. I do think that they are going to have another good year. They added a couple of good pieces, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and as well as Devon Witherspoon. I got them going 10-7. And to finish things out, the San Francisco 49ers, the last team here in the NFC, where, not much to say about this team coming off that conference championship loss to the Eagles. They need quarterbacks. And Brock Purdy, if he's able to stay healthy, I think the Niners will do good things. I don't think they're going to be a Super Bowl-worthy team until they find an actual quarterback. If they would have gotten like an Aaron Rodgers, who even though Aaron Rodgers isn't that good anymore, I think that he's capable of leading this team to the Super Bowl. But I do think this is going to be a Super Bowl contending team, I guess, just not maybe until they find a better quarterback. So 12-5 for them. Let's go to the AFC North. Let's start with the Cleveland Browns, who I'm actually kind of intrigued for this team. This is another question mark team coming off a weird year. Deshaun Watson was out for most of the year. And this is a team you got to remember the top 5 offensive line, a top 5 defense. Deshaun Watson, who back in his prime was a top 5 to 10 quarterback. I really hope Deshaun Watson can return to what he was, because if he does, this Browns team will probably be in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to be there this year. I think it's going to be the next year that they make it into the playoffs. I think this year they're going to be competing and probably just miss it by a game or two. So I got them going 8-9. Here's the Pittsburgh Steelers, the team that can never have a losing record for some reason. Well, what are they going to do this year? I think they're probably going to do it again. George Pickens, who, I don't really like his attitude a lot, but he is a beast. He's a dog, so I got to give it to him. I like his game. He's good. He's got a good game to him. He's nice. Kenny Pickett, I don't really know what to say about him. I think he's pretty good. I think the Steelers have a pretty good roster, good defense. I think they're going to go 9-8 this year. The Baltimore Ravens. Well, this is a team that I think should be in the playoffs this year no matter what. I think that they should probably compete for the division against the Cincinnati Bengals. So there's a lot of expectations for this team. Lamar Jackson, new contract, needs to stay healthy. OBJ, Zay Flowers, a solid defense. This is a team that should be in the playoffs this year, minimum, and probably win at least a playoff game. I got them going 11-6. And the Joey B-led Bengals. Yeah, I think they're going to have a good year. I think Joe Burrow, if you want me to give, I'm going to save my predictions for the rest of the NFL and stuff. But yeah, I think that the Bengals are going to be really good this year. They got a good team, a good receiving core, a solid defense, and probably a top 2 quarterback in the not even debatable, a top 2 quarterback in the NFL. So 12-5 for the Cincinnati Bengals. They'll be back in the playoffs for sure. Now we go to the AFC East, a very interesting division, probably one of the most. I'm going to start with the New England Patriots, who don't really know how to feel about them. I don't like their quarterback. I don't really like their offense at all. Their defense is okay. They just don't have a good receiving core. I like it. The Zeke pickup was huge. I think that's actually going to be huge for them. I think that's going to really help their run game. And I don't really have a lot of faith in Mac Jones. I would take Daniel Jones over Mac Jones. So I don't really know about this team. I got them going 7-10. They could go 9-8. They could go 5-12. We'll see. The Miami Dolphins. I was really high on this team up until Jalen Ramsey went down, which really isn't going to affect them that badly, but I do think that could affect maybe a win. I have them winning one less game since Ramsey's going to probably be out until, I think it was December they were saying. Hopefully he can come back before then, but I do really like this team. And if they make it into the playoffs, I do have them as a Super Bowl sleeper, but I got them going 9-8 in the regular season. New York Jets, here it is, the biggest question mark. What's going to happen? Aaron Rodgers, another huge draft class as well. Not as probably, huge, but I really like their draft pick in the first round with Bill McDonald. Garrett Wilson, reigning offensive rookie of the year. Sauce Gardner, all-pro his rookie year. This team should be at least 10-7, maybe even 11-6. A Super Bowl contender. I don't think they will contend for a Super Bowl this year, but they should. I really do think they should. If they don't at least make the playoffs, it's probably the biggest disappointment team of all time. But I got them going 10-7. And then the Buffalo Bills. Well, they can't seem to make it past, the divisional round. I think they made it to the conference championship a couple years ago. Really hoping the best for this team. I like Josh Allen. I like Stephon Diggs. They got a top 5 to 10 defense. This is a team that should be competing for Super Bowls. They might be missing a couple pieces. I think, the running back room isn't great, which has been probably their biggest issue. The offensive line could get a little better, maybe defensive line as well. But I think they're going to be going 12-5 this year. On to the AFC South, starting with the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, the new rookie quarterback, Anthony Richardson, who people are saying is going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's not, okay? If you would have watched him in college, you would know he's not all there yet. He's very raw, and let me tell you, he's got some of the most potential probably out of any quarterback in the NFL. He's got the most like Lamar, play that I've seen out of any quarterback coming out of college. So I do like him. I liked the pick. I liked Will Levis a little bit too, but I do think this team's going to have a lot of struggles this year. So many pieces missing, including at the offensive and defensive spot. I got them going 4-13. Tennessee Titans. Well, they don't really have a great quarterback room either. Who knows who they're going to start? Probably Will Levis. But you got to remember, I think they still have Ryan Tannehill as well. I don't know if they still do. And they still have Malik Willis, who we're waiting to see him show up as well. I don't think this team's going to be very good this year either. But for somehow, some weird way, they got DeAndre Hopkins, still have Derrick Henry. This is they got Traylon Burks last year. Their defense is okay. They're missing a lot of pieces. They got a good cornerback room, but I don't think they're going to be great this year. I think they're going to go 5-12. Houston Texans. This is a team who I see heavily improving, coming off the worst record last year besides the Chicago Bears. This is a 3-win team last year. They're not going to be in the playoffs this year. C.J. Stroud hasn't shown enough to really show that, but this team, man, this is a good looking future. I think this defense alone could get them 6-7 wins. So I had this team going 5-12 at first, but I looked at that defense and I looked at who they got coming back this year. John Mechie's going to be back, Dameon Pierce, CJ Stroud hopefully can have a good year. I got them going 7-10. And then the Jaguars, who should run this division. There's no reason this team should not be 4 games ahead of the second place in this division. This team's really good. They've got some good guys offensively. Trevor Lawrence, top 5 quarterback in my opinion. Calvin Ridley, a top 10 wide receiver. A solid defense. A couple, young guys. A couple pieces missing maybe, but this team's going to be good this year, guys. They're going to be 11-6 in the playoffs. The AFC West, an interesting division here as well. Let's start with the Vegas Raiders, who. Yeah, it's hard to say with them. I don't like their quarterback. You have Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, who, best running back in the NFL last year, top 5 wide receiver last year. Defensively, got Max Crosby. I think they drafted Tyree Wilson, right? But still just a few pieces missing them, offensive line. Hunter Renfrow's not a great quarterback. I think they'll struggle a little bit this year. I got them going 7-10. I do think there's a good chance they could make it back into the playoffs, though. The Denver Broncos. This is going to be a team you're going to see improve drastically from last year as well. I think last year was just a weird year. Nathaniel Hackett was really, what the biggest probably issue of it all. I think that Russell Wilson's going to have, bounce back, have a huge bounce back year. And I think this team's probably going to have a good shot at the playoffs. They're a tough division, but man, they got a good roster, really good defense, pretty solid offense. I got them going 9-8 this year. Los Angeles Chargers. This is a team who should have won a playoff game last year. They choked. It was bad. It was embarrassing. That was one of the worst chokes I've ever seen in my life. Justin Herbert, though, he's still that guy, a top 5 quarterback. And you still got Mike Williams. You still got Keenan Allen. You had Quentin Johnston. A really good defense. Top 5 to 10 defense there as well. Guys like Joey Bosa and, J.C. Jackson. All these guys on defense that are really good. I think this is going to be a good team. Austin Eckler as well. Forgot to mention him. They got a really good team. They should be back in the playoffs this year. They should have a good, winning record and probably finish at least second in the division. I don't know if anyone's going to dethrone the Chiefs this year, but, man, I do think that the Chargers are going to be pretty solid this year. I got them going 11-6. And the KC defending Super Bowl champs, Chiefs, who opened up the season against my favorite team, the Detroit Lions. I'm 50-50 on that game. I really don't know what to say, but this team probably going to be back, as the 1 seed in the playoffs, or at least, a top 3 seed in the playoffs, and probably, a 12-5 year. You still got a good roster. You still have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, so you're going to be good. You're going to be fine. If one of them goes down, yeah, they probably won't be, but this is going to be a good team. I got a lot of faith in them. I think they're going to go 12-5 and repeat as the AFC West champions for like the 7th year in a row. And now here we are into the NFL playoffs. Here's my playoff picture. This is, all my seeding and just, general where I think teams will be. Starting with the Eagles with the 1 seed, and then it goes Niners, Lions, Saints, Cowboys, Seahawks, and the Vikings making it in over the Panthers and Giants. I think they'll have a better divisional record, helping them get in. And then the AFC, you got the Chiefs at the 1, and then Bengals, Bills, Jags, Chargers, Ravens, and then the Jets getting the tiebreaker over teams like the Broncos and the Steelers, obviously with a better divisional record. First game, wildcard weekend, we have the Niners and the Vikings. I am going to take the 49ers here. I think they just have a better roster in San Francisco. I think they're going to win that one pretty easily. And also the score predictions are pretty broad. They're not really like I didn't really try that hard with them. We got the Lions Seahawks for our next game. I do have the Lions winning this in Detroit. I think they're going to win their first playoff game in like over 30 years. I think this is the year. If you say anything else, anything otherwise, I disagree with you. I think Lions will win that game in a pretty close one, 35-31. And then we got Saints Cowboys. Pretty good matchup, honestly, but I do think Cowboys will take care of business on the road. I don't think the Saints are quite strong enough yet, missing a couple pieces. Derek Carr's first year, I got Cowboys winning that one. Into the AFC, we got the Bengals and the Jets. The Jets, man, what a good, roster they got. But Joe Burrow, I do think is going to have a great year. I got the Bengals winning that one and moving on into the divisional round. The Bills and the Ravens. I like the Bills here. I could really see the Ravens upsetting the Bills, but being in Buffalo, I do trust Josh Allen to finally get another playoff victory and probably be another divisional round exit. But I do have the Bills winning that. And then we have Jags Chargers. It was hard because I really like the Jags. I think they're a year out from being a Super Bowl contender. This year, the only year they're not. The only reason they're not is because they're in the AFC. I got the Chargers getting this one on the road after, kind of getting revenge for what happened last year in that rematch game. Into the divisional round now, we got the Eagles Cowboys. I think Eagles take care of business at home. Will head into their second straight conference championship match. So I just think the Eagles got the better overall team, better quarterback, better offense overall. The Lions and the Niners. I really could see a Lions upset here, kind of like the game coming up here Thursday night with the Lions Chiefs. But I'm going to take the Niners here. I trust them at home, and I think they'll make it back into the NFC Championship game as well. And then into the divisional round in the AFC, Chiefs Chargers. I would love to take the Chargers here. I think the Chiefs are probably going to have a good game here. Coming off the bye week, I think they're probably going to blow out the Chargers pretty badly. I like the Chiefs here. I think Chargers are another year out. Bengals Bills, another rematch from last year. I do have the Bengals winning this one as well. I think that they're making it back in. We're going to have repeat conference champions from last year. And I do think that probably next year the Bills will probably either be in the conference championship or at least the Super Bowl. Now we've got the NFC Conference Championship. Eagles, Niners, the rematch. I think once again the Eagles will take them down and head back to the Super Bowl for the second straight year. 27-21 is my prediction. And then the rematch over here as well, back in Arrowhead Stadium, or as the Bengals fans like to call it, Burrowhead. I do think Joe Burrow will get his revenge and head back to the Super Bowl as well. And I think the Bengals will take down the Chiefs. And then there you have it, my Super Bowl matchup between the Eagles and the Bengals. This is going to be a great game. I think it's going to be pretty high scoring. I think that Joe Burrow and company, these are both two teams that have made the Super Bowl the last 2 years. Bengals made it 2 years ago. Eagles made it last year. Both of them lost. One of them's going to end up getting the win here, and I got the Bengals winning it. I got Joe Burrow leading the Bengals all the way and taking them to the Super Bowl. So Bengals are my Super Bowl pick. Let me know what you guys think about that. And yeah, so that's going to finish up this video for the most part. My last thing I'm going to do is go through my award predictions, MVP, offensive player of the year, all that stuff. So I'm going to do that real quick. It's going to be fast. And then yeah, I'm going to talk about myself for a minute, and this 26-minute video will be over. So starting with offensive rookie of the year, let's go with Bijan Robinson from the Atlanta Falcons. I think most people are picking him. I think Jahmyr Gibbs and Bryce Young could both be sleeper picks as well. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I've got Will Anderson winning. I think Jack Campbell, Will McDonald, or Brian Branch are all guys that I could see winning that as well. Offensive Player of the Year, this one's kind of hard. I really don't know who's going to win it. I think Justin Jefferson's probably going to have a repeat year if he stays healthy, so I'm just going to go with him. Obviously, a guy like, quarterback like Patrick Mahomes could win it as well, or Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, anyone like that as well could win it. So, Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going to be taking Micah Parsons. I think he's going to have a 20 sack season, and I think he's going to basically help the Cowboys, be who they are. He's got to stay healthy. I think he's going to finish with 21 sacks in the year, interception, and I think he's going to have a pretty big year. And then we'll go Coach of the Year. How about that? I'm going to take Dan Campbell from the Detroit Lions, leading them to their first divisional win in 30 years and the first playoff win in 30 years. So, and then we're going to go with Comeback Player of the Year, which I think we can all agree, probably DeMar Hamlin. I think that kind of just makes sense, coming back after what happened to him. So scary, and there he is back on the field playing. So we'll take DeMar Hamlin for the Comeback Player of the Year. And then MVP, I've got Joe Burrow. Not much to say about that, just Joe Burrow being Joe Burrow. I think he's got it this year. I think he's going to have a huge year and lead the Bengals to the Super Bowl, like I said. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. It really does mean a lot. I mean, if you are watching right now, you've watched over 26 minutes of me just talking, and, I tried to put in as much highlights as I could to keep you guys entertained. Hopefully you enjoyed it. This video took way longer than it should have. But I finally got it done, and just thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like if you can, or subscribe as well. You don't have to, but it would go a long ways. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.